Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. We'll be right back to the show. But before we do, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, factormeals.com, where if you go to factormeals.com/unbroken50 and use the code unbroken50, you can get 50% off your first order. That's factormeals.com/unbroken50. If you're like me and you are a person who is busy trying to create a life, heal, work on their health, wealth, and relationships, and not to mention deal with the day-to-days of normal life, you do not have time to be going to the grocery store and trying to figure out what you're going to cook every single day of the week. In fact, one time I did the math and I realized I was spending over 15 hours a week at the grocery store and cooking. When I added Factor, I got to use that time for myself, for my family, for my friends, for my community, and for my business. And so if you're in the place where you need some more support in the kitchen, head to factormeals.com/unbroken50 and use the code unbroken50 to get 50% off. Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program.
You know, sometimes when I'm sitting down across from the mic with an amazing human being, I think to myself, wow, anything is really possible if you're willing to believe that it is. And that holds so true in today's episode of the podcast with Jon Gordon. Now, if I read all of Jon's accolades, we would be here all freaking day. So I'll give you the highlights. He's a best-selling author. He's an international speaker. He's written 24 books. One of them, which is called The Energy Bus, sold over 2 million copies. He's a graduate from Cornell. He's a master's in teaching from Emery, and he is just a powerhouse of a human being. And his story and his journey are like anyone's, not just all of these really incredible, cool accouterments to the human experience, but a lot of struggle and scary long nights and being dramatically in debt and losing it all, but the willingness to figure it out and keep going. And I felt so inspired after this conversation with Jon because it was just such a reminder when I was kind of in this little bit of a dark place a few months ago where it was just like, keep going. just keep going, just keep going. It's like I tell you guys all the time, there's always light. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. It holds true in my life. I see it hold true in people's lives every single day. And it holds true here for Jon and his story. And I hope the thing that you'll take out of the conversation that I have with Jon here today is that self-belief is everything. And I know that can be a really, really difficult thing to navigate sometimes, especially when life feels hard and daunting and meticulous and difficult and sad, and we suffer and go through the throes of all of the things that is the human experience. But if you're willing to hold on to the truth that betting on yourself and willing to follow through and doing whatever it takes will create a massive change in your life, then that is exactly what will happen. And that's the conversation that I have with Jon today. And it was really beautiful timing for me because a few months ago, I was feeling low. I was feeling like, what is the point of Think Unbroken? What is the point of killing myself over building this? What is the point of everything? And it was just kind of it being in the crux of a lot of transition in my life and feeling not necessarily depressed, but just kind of a little blue and feeling like, okay, get back into the tools, get back into the habits, into the routines, into the beliefs, and keep just executing and going forward. And then I look at kind of the last 3-4 months, and it's been absolutely incredible. And, sitting here in the new studio with you, having just spoken in New York City, having a billboard of me there, which was really crazy, working on the next book, the men's coaching group program that's about to launch, so many really, really cool things happening. And it's just, again, a testament to executing against the tools and recognizing like we are all going to have bad days, but there's always light if you're willing to bet on yourself and keep going. And that's a lot of what Jon and I discuss in today's conversation on the podcast. And so I would read an excerpt of the book, but I don't think I would do it justice because Jon is just, his energy is unbelievable. His thought about life is unbelievable. And it was an honor to be able to sit down with him and have this conversation. So, Unbroken Nation, without any further ado, my friends, let's get into the show.
Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Welcome to the Think Unbroken podcast. I'm your host, Michael Unbroken, and this podcast is about helping trauma survivors let go of the past, overcome their fear, discover their identity, become the hero of their own story, and ultimately to be unbroken. Our goal in company is to bring on guests and experts in the fields of mental, physical, and psychological health to help you overcome the past, to take back your power. And in this podcast, we are unedited and unfiltered, and we're going to give it to you real so that you can start to create massive change in your life. If you're curious about learning more outside the podcast, you can get a free copy of my book, Think Unbroken, at book.thinkunbroken.com. That's book.thinkunbroken.com, where you can get a copy of my #1 best-selling book, Think Unbroken, Understanding and Overcoming Childhood Trauma. The most important thing that you can ever do, my friends, is show up for yourself, and that's where you are today. And I appreciate you. I have massive gratitude for you. And without further ado, let's get into the show. We'll be right back to the show, but before we do, I'm going to take a moment and tell you about my new book, Unbroken Man, a man's guide to being the hero of their own story. I sat down a few months ago and realized that there are so many men in the world that need guidance, that need support, that need to learn about trauma, removing themselves from toxic masculinity, breaking down the barriers to vulnerability, getting unstuck, and ultimately learning the tools to become the hero of their own story. Unbroken Man is available for pre-order right now if you go to men.thinkunbroken.com, where you'll also get access to over $1,000 in bonuses, including the 6-week in-depth trauma healing coaching app, which you'll get instant access to. I created Unbroken Man to be accessible to everyone around the world, but it is written for men from the guise of a man, and I hope that you will find it to be a practical tool on your healing journey in the same way that thousands of men around the world have. So check out men.thinkunbroken.com to pre-order, and until next time, be unbroken. Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Hope that you're doing well wherever you are in the world today. I'm very excited to be back with you with another episode with my good friend, Jon Gordon. Jon, my friend, what is happening in your world today?
Today, Michael, I am talking to you. Yesterday was my birthday. I turned 51, so a lot of life left. When I turned 50, I said, okay, what's a big goal that I could have right now? I said, I'm going for 100. And so in the words of the great American philosopher, Jon Bon Jovi, I'm halfway there, living on a prayer. And so now at 51, it's more than halfway there, but every day is a new opportunity. My wife and I are executive producers of a movie that just came out today called Tiger Rising, and Queen Latifah is in it. Dennis Quaid is in it. And it's this really cool movie that hits, and we're involved with that. So we're very excited about that movie coming out. So that's what's happening in my role right now.
Man, that's beautiful. And congratulations and happy birthday. And Bon Jovi will always have a place in my heart. So for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your backstory, your amazing TED Talk, your books, your businesses, your life, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. You know, I went to Cornell University. I graduated from there. Never thought I would go to an Ivy League school. I came from a very blue collar family. My parents never made more than $30,000 combined. I graduate. I go down to Texas to be with a girlfriend. We break up. I am devastated. My heart is broken. I'm driving home and I am just crying on the drive home. I go home to live with my parents. I start waiting tables. And I feel like a failure because all my friends went to go work on Wall Street. They're making fortunes and I am making nothing living with my parents. I decided to move to Atlanta to go create my life. It was an upcoming city. It was rising up. Everyone said, check it out. A lot of things are happening there, a lot of young people. So I said, I'm going to create my life there. Went down there. I started waiting tables. Next thing you know, I started bartending because I got a job bartending at a bar in Buckhead. It was a happening spot. Never bartended before, but I got the job because I said I had bartended and they gave me a tryout that night. At the end of the tryout, they said, it's clear you have no idea how to bartend, but we love your energy, so we're going to give you a shot. So now I'm bartending. I'm getting my master's in teaching at Emory. I was going to teach. I'm bartending, teaching, right? And I'm going through that process. And then eventually I met the owner next door who owned the restaurant next to the bar where I was working. I said, hey, would you ever sell this place? He said, everything is for sale. And so got some investors together. My grandparents had died and they left me a little money when they died. I took that money, I invested it, got partners to invest and opened up a bar in Buckhead. So now I'm bartending, I'm owning this bar. 3 weeks later, after opening it, this woman's walking down the street and I saw her, and I gotta admit, it was love at first sight. For her, it took a few years, but that woman would eventually become my wife. And we got married. We had some kids. I started a nonprofit that raised money and volunteered for youth-focused charities called the Phoenix Organization. So we would raise all this money and I would meet people in the bar and I'd say, hey, you got to get involved in the community. And here I am in my early 20s, right? I'm a young guy, but I'm getting people involved and we're making a difference and moving and shaking. And then eventually I ran for city council and I walked door to door to 7,000 houses. I lost the election though, but sometimes you have to lose a goal to find your destiny. And so in losing that election, that was actually the best thing that ever happened to me because I would probably be a city councilman or maybe mayor dealing with certain things that probably was not my calling. Eventually I would find my calling writing and speaking. But in that moment, I have to admit, I was devastated. I really was devastated. And I thought my life was over, but I moved through that time, moved past that time, went to law school for a year and a half. A year and a half. Those are the hardest times of law school. And I didn't stick with it. I actually quit after a year and a half. I said, this is not for me. And I went to go work for a .com. I thought I was going to make my gazillions. I had like 100,000 shares, .com. This is wireless technology. Everyone's excited about this. We're talking about 1999, 2000, and 29, 30 years old. And the .com crashes. My wife and I had just moved to Jacksonville, Florida. She wanted to move to the beach. So I'm working from Florida. The company's based in Atlanta. I'm going back and forth. My boss let me do that. And then all of a sudden it crashes. I lose my job. What am I going to do? How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to support my family? My wife and I are fighting all the time. And I am being really negative. And she said, you know what? I love you. But if you don't change, like we're over. I'm not going to spend my life with someone who makes me so miserable. You need to change. And I was being beaten down by stress. I had so much fear. I was crumbling from the inside out. Like I was falling apart. I was being negative. I was blaming her for why my life was so bad. I was blaming and complaining, and I was not being a good husband. I was not being a good father. I was looking outside my marriage to try to find some happiness and some validation, right? For being such a failure. And when she gave me that wake-up call, it was a huge wake-up call. And I remember saying, okay, what am I born to do? Like, why am I here? Why am I so miserable? Like everything's falling apart, like fresh start, new beginning. What do you want to do? And writing and speaking came to me in that moment. I'll never forget. It came to me. I said, okay, I'm going to do this somehow, some way, but I can't just go write and speak. Now I got to pay the bills. I got to support my family. So I second mortgaged our home, $20,000 in credit cards, and opened up a Moe's Southwest Grill franchise. We were the 5th Moe's in the entire country. There's now over 300 Moe's around the country. We were the 5th. We were the first one in Florida. And so we were basically hanging by a thread. I mean, it was scary. Like we thought we were going to go bankrupt. We had no money in our savings account. We were basically depending on every week, like week by week, like how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to eat? We were eating at the restaurant all the time because we had no money to buy other food. It was like that bad. And then I got a call out of the blue from a friend. It was actually an acquaintance. He said, hey, I got a company. They want to learn about wireless technology. And I know that you were involved with that. Can you teach them how to do it? I said, I don't know about it technically. I just know how to sell it. He said, yes, they just want to learn how to sell it. So help them how to sell. They agreed to pay me $13,000 for 6 weeks of consulting. Like, are you kidding me? That money carried us as we were trying to make the restaurant successful. We broke even the first week, broke even the second. We never lost money, but we weren't making any money. Then I put a little money into the advertising, and I did 1 week of advertising. All of a sudden, business grew. Did it again, business grew. Took the profits, put it more into radio, and it grew. Next thing you know, we were thriving. Money's coming in. I remember as that last dime ran out of our account from the consulting, we made our first profit. It was like God was carrying me and my family, because there was a moment, I should back up, when we were really struggling, when I thought we were going to go bankrupt, when everything was falling apart. I said, God, please provide for me and my family, and I will do your work. Like I will help others. I will serve others. I will do your work. I will make a difference. Up to that point, it was always about me. It was always about like being a success, right? It was about very narcissistic in many ways, but it was about me. And in that moment, as I became broken, right? I then was filled up. I was filled up with God's presence and peace. And I realized it's not about me. It's about serving others. It's about making a difference. So I changed my lens. The world looked very different. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make an impact. And it truly became others. And that's when in your words, I became unbroken during that time where everything changed. And from that moment on, I've never been the same. And so now the restaurant makes its first profit, and we started making some money, like just got carried. And there was a woman who was in my restaurant, and she was sitting there, and I'm wiping tables down. She didn't know I was the owner. No one did, because I was like 29, 30 years old. I look young, and I'm wiping tables down. And I started talking to her. Next thing you know, I told her I was the owner. She said, oh, I'm the managing partner of New York Life. She said, oh, what else? I forget. She said something else. And I said, well, I'm also a motivational speaker. And I had never given a talk, but I said I was a motivational speaker. And she said, you should come speak to my company sometime. And so she invited me to speak to her company. I did, gave a talk, and I loved it. I'm like, okay, I can do this. Like I can do this. And next thing you know, I was like, all right, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to make this my life and career. And since that moment, I've written 25 books. I've given thousands of talks. My books have sold over 5 million copies. I'm most known for The Energy Bus, which I wrote in 2006, came out in 2007. And this is where everything changed. See, I sold my Moe's restaurants. I eventually opened 3 of them. I sold them and took that money and said, okay, I'm now going to write and speak full time. And as I made that decision, everything started to dissipate. Everything started to fade away. All of a sudden, speaking dried up. Nothing was happening. I wasn't doing a lot, but everything I even had was drying up. And the money's running out of the account. We're living off this money. And I'm thinking, how long could this possibly go on? And I'm taking a walk and I'm praying and I'm just trying to figure it all out. And I'll never forget, the idea for the Energy Bus just came to me. And I wrote it in 3.5 weeks of divine inspiration. It was rejected by over 30 publishers. I was told to give up. But I couldn't give up because I had this vision and mission, and it was to encourage and inspire millions of people, one person at a time. So I kept on hoping, kept on dreaming, kept on putting it out there. And finally, John Wiley and Sons agreed to publish the book. I'll never forget. Main character was named George, and the publisher, the editor, Shannon, had a best friend with a husband named George.
We'll be right back, but I wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about the Think Unbroken 6-week trauma healing coaching program. If you go to coaching.thinkunbroken.com, that's coaching.thinkunbroken.com, you can sign up for the 6-week daily Think Unbroken trauma healing coaching program. In this program, we're going to go over the 6 principles of healing trauma, adaptation, understanding the impacts of trauma, how to become the hero of your own story, what to do next, and ultimately what it means to be unbroken. For more information about this 6-week coaching program, which you can download as an app on your phone and take with you everywhere, no matter where you are in the world, it's interactive. It's built about giving you practical tools that you can use in real time. And if you're ready for what's next in your life, go to coaching.thinkunbroken.com. Again, that's coaching.thinkunbroken.com. Now let's get back to the show.
And so she thought, I want to do this book. I want to give this guy a shot. And the main publisher said, if it doesn't go well, it could be your career. She said, no, I want to do this book. And comes out, no bookstores would carry it. I went on a 28-city tour, paid for myself. I went from city to city sharing the message in the book. We had 5 people in one city, 10 people in another, 20 in another. The most people we had were 100 people in Des Moines, Iowa. They thought Jeff Gordon was coming. That's why they showed up, the race car driver. I remember I got home, and by the way, that's a true story. It wasn't, meant to be a joke, but it is funny. And I got home. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that I just had this vision and mission, and I had to live it and breathe it every single day. And that's what I've done. That's what began this journey. That's what I've been doing every single day, just sharing the message and the mission. Took 5 years for that book to become a bestseller. But then I started writing other books like The Carpenter, Training Camp, which is my favorite, about an undrafted rookie trying to make it in the NFL. And a special coach takes him under his wing, teaches him the winning habits that separate the best from the rest. And it's all about the fact that he has to overcome his fear, find his faith to be all that he's meant to be. I wrote The Garden, which is about a recent book about dealing with fear, stress, and anxiety, and overcoming all the anxiety that we have, and talking about identity, which I know you do a lot of work around. And it's about understanding what your identity is, who you are. And I truly believe you're a child of God. That if you understand you're a child of God, that you are special, that there is greatness within you. You're here to do great things. That you can stop listening to the voices that say you're not great, you're not enough, your future is hopeless. And those are just negative voices. And those voices do not come from you. How do I know? Who would ever choose to have a negative thought? Would you ever choose a negative thought? I would never choose one, right? Those thoughts are always coming in, maybe from patterns of the past, but they're not necessarily coming from you. They're coming from, what I believe is a spiritual battle, from consciousness. Like when you have a dream or a nightmare, are you choosing those thoughts? No, they're just coming in. And so these thoughts always tell you you're not enough. They tell you things about yourself and your future that just aren't true. So the key is, don't believe the lies. Instead, you want to speak truth to the lies. And the truth is, you are here to do great things. The truth is, as you talk about with identity, your identity ultimately is who you are and who you decide to become. And once you have an understanding of that and your vision and your purpose, everything changes from there. And so there's so much power in understanding that. And I teach people how to win the battle, of their mind through the book, The Garden. And then I've written a number of children's books as well, where we're teaching kids how to be positive and so forth. And I wrote The Power of Positive Leadership, which my mission is to develop positive leaders around the world. And then The Power of a Positive Team, which is about making great teams great. And so now I get to work with like the Dodgers. I work with the Rams, the Miami Heat, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Clemson football for the past 10 years. I get to work with a lot of NFL teams, a lot of college teams, a lot of sports of all types. And it's really fun to work with these teams and share these principles, because I've seen firsthand what works. And it's just something that's been a part of my journey. Like I didn't choose it. It just started finding me as I wrote these books. Coaches started reading my books, reaching out, asking me to speak to their teams or work with them or help them as a coach. And that's led to now the work that I do.
Man, Jon, that's such an incredible story. And I'm sitting here like in awe, and also like marker, like thinking about the trajectory for my future. One of the things, and I know, and I want to be conscious of your time, and I appreciate you being here greatly, but I have to ask this question because I'd be remiss not to. what does it mean to you to like commit first? Because I hear so much of that in your journey and in your experience. And I think people fail to really, truly understand what happens when they make a decision and commit to their life. What does that mean to you?
That's so good that you just said commit first. Like leaders go first. They commit, they lead the way. If we want commitment from others, we have to demonstrate commitment ourselves. So to me, it's about committing to the life that you want. It's the grit to say, this is my vision. This is my purpose. This is where I'm going and why I'm going there. When you know your why, you will know the way, and you won't let obstacles get in the way. And we don't get burned out because of what we do. We get burned out because we forget why we do it. And so we have our vision, we have our purpose, and that drives us to move us forward. We stay positive on the journey. We have a love of what we do. There's a devotion to it. There's a love and a devotion. And I always say love drives grit, because if you don't love it, you'll never be great at it. But when you love something, you're not going to give up. You're not going to quit. You're going to keep on moving forward. And for me, it was a commitment that said, you know what? Let's go for it. Life is short. We have nothing to lose. Even with the restaurant, second mortgage on our home, I got to give my wife a lot of credit. She said, let's go for it. Let's do it. And you commit. It's almost like what Les Brown says, right? He says, you jump and you grow your wings on the way down, right? You got to commit. And I believe God will move heaven and earth when you're on the right path to support you. And so you do commit. And it's in that commitment where you activate, somehow you activate the forces, some call it the universe, others call it God, but you activate the forces and the power to start to move through your life because you're committing, you're sacrificing, you're serving, you're making a difference. So to me, it means that commitment, that trust, that faith. You're not living in fear. Fear holds so many people back. It's the faith to keep moving forward. I can look back and say everything I have in my life was because I took a step into it and said, you know what? No fear, courage, boldness, faith, and yes, a commitment. I believe you need the courage to have commitment. Like there's courage that creates the commitment that allows you to be successful. And so I do have a lot of courage and in some ways stupidity and almost like naive enough to be successful. Like I put that money down in the restaurant. It could have went south. I could have lost all this money. My partners did steal from me years later. And then I left and said, buy me out. I first asked to see the books. They said, we're not showing them to you. I said, well, if you don't show them to me, I'm going to send a demand letter from my attorney. So you have to show them. After that, they said, okay, we're buying you out. Again, I'm 28, 29 years old. Don't know a whole lot about business, but they agreed to buy me out. They offered me $100,000. It was probably worth $400,000 to $500,000, but I took the money. I said, fine, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to go to court. I'm not going to waste my energy on that. I'm taking the money and I'm moving forward. And I did. I think so often we get caught up in the past. We allow that energy of the past and the fighting and the bitterness to hold us back. I said, no, I'm moving forward. And that's what I did. Took that 100,000, moved down, we moved down to Florida. That's what I used to open up the Mo's, plus second mortgage in my home and $20,000 in credit cards, right? It's about $220,000 total to open up that place. And next thing you know, I turned that 220. When I sold my restaurants, I sold them for about $1 million. I had to pay back some of my investors because we opened up several others, but took that money and then said, okay, I'm now going to write and speak. And now that I could see is the foundation for everything I've been doing and have done. So it was all about commitment, jumping in with the restaurant, jumping in with the Mo's, jumping in as a writer and speaker and say, I don't know what the future holds, but I know this is my mission. This is my calling. I did say, I'm going to go for this. I realize this is what I'm meant to do. Even if it takes me 10 to 15 years, I'll be 40. I'll be 45. Even if it takes me that long, at least I'm doing what I love and I'm passionate about it. And I love getting up every day doing this work, because doing the other work where I was working for someone, I felt like my soul was dying every day. I felt like I was literally, instead of living, I was dying. And I knew I was made for more. I knew I was made to serve others and make a difference. And clearly this was the calling that I was meant for, because I wake up every day excited about what I'm doing. Thankful I get to do it. And, I don't need to go give a lot of talks every year, but I do. I give over 50 to 60 talks, sometimes 80 talks every year. I did 137 last year between virtual and live, 55 in person. And I still do it because this is my calling. People say, well, what are you going to do, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What's your 5-year plan, 10-year plan? To continue to do this work, to serve others, to make a difference. to write maybe more children's books, to encourage more kids, and to continue to have an impact, to get to interview people like you who are teaching about trauma and overcoming trauma, childhood trauma, which is so important. Again, I'm learning things along the way. I never heard of trauma until about a year ago, 2 years ago. Now I've been hearing about it all the time. So now this is something that's new for me, but it's something I realize how important it is. And it's amazing you're doing this work. And so again, I'm always curious, what's next? Where is God going to lead me? And I'm open. See, that's the thing. God doesn't pick the best, right? He picks the most willing. And you got to be willing. He doesn't pick the best, right? He picked you. He picked me. Like, who are we, right? But he picked us to do this work. And we're just willing and we're obedient. I always say, pray and obey. You pray. And then when you get that word, when you get that call, and when you get the message, obey and go. A lot of people get it. They get the impulse. They get the desire. They get the thought that says you should do this. And they say, oh, no, I can't do that. Oh, no, that won't work. Oh, I don't have what it takes to do that. Or I don't feel worthy. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel of value. Like, who am I to be doing that? And so what happens is they retreat. Instead of stepping forward with faith and boldness and courage, they retreat. And so then God can't use them to do what he wants them to do, to be who they're meant to be. And so they never become who they're meant to become. Our job is to say, use me, I'm open, commit, and say, let's go, and believe that it's possible. Believe that it's possible for God, because God is a lot bigger than you, and believe that it's possible for you because you are worthy and you're here to do great things.
Man, beautifully said, Jon. And I totally resonate with that. I also believe like the life I'm creating is 37 years away, right? But every day I show up. Man, this is an incredible conversation. I'm blown away, standing here with goosebumps. Before I ask you my last question, Jon, can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Sure. And first, Michael, I had you on my podcast, and I got to admit, you blew me away as well. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
JonGordon.com, JonGordon.com, or Twitter, Instagram at JonGordon11. Would love for you to follow me there so I can continue to encourage you along the way. And also have a podcast, Positive University. Please listen to my interview with Michael, because, man, as you know, since you're listening to him here, he was awesome.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. My last question for you, my friend. What does it mean to you to be unbroken?
It means you're not phased. You're not living in the past. It means that, there's greatness inside of you. That there's a power inside of you that is greater than all the forces against you. And that you will face adversity. You will face challenges. You will have setbacks. There'll be pain. There'll be suffering. But you have the power to rise above, to move through it, to heal, to overcome. And ultimately, you have the power to change the world. And so we all get broken at times, but I believe ultimately what happens in the healing process, then we become unbroken. And then from that healing, we then heal others. And that's what I see you doing, Michael. Keep up the great work.
Appreciate you, my friend. And beautifully said. Unbroken Nation, thank you so much for listening. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, share, tell a friend. And until next time, my friends, be unbroken. I'll see you. Unbroken Nation, hope that you just got a tremendous amount of value from today's episode. I want to know what you think. Please do me a favor and review, rate, and share the episode with 3 friends on social media today. It would mean the world if you did, because ultimately at the end of the day, creating community and connection is how we heal generational trauma in the world. And I need your help to do that, Unbroken Nation. So if you're on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you are, please like, comment, share, review. I want to know not only what you like about the show, but how I can make the show better, how I can make this further about helping you on your healing journey. So do me a favor. And when you do, shoot me a screenshot of you making the review to my DM at Michael Unbroken on Instagram so that I can have a conversation with you, say hi, and more importantly, so I can share it with the Unbroken Nation. Thank you so much, my friend.
Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of live coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program.